It's early Friday morning. Alice, founder and company CEO, is getting ready to go to the office for a meeting with her leadership team. Her assistant calls. "I'm now seeing a resignation letter from your CTIO in your inbox. I'm not seeing confirmations from the others for the meeting today." Already thinking about all the pressing concerns, the upcoming decisions, and challenges that have to move, Alice comes in ready to work and heads right to her assistant. "Where is everyone?" Her assistant now shares the current update. 2 still not responding, 2 called out sick, 1 thought the meeting was cancelled, didn't come in. What is going on? This does not happen. Before they start triage, she returns to her office, shuts the door, remembers a podcast, now more relevant. She puts on her earphones and for this moment, listens.
You might be thinking this is unrealistic, that it just wouldn't happen. The rules, though, are changing moment by moment. The unexpected is now expected. Our world is beginning to look like Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland. A cake to make you smaller, a drink to make you larger. Up was down, down was up. Alice was experiencing a world she wasn't in charge of. The world is already reimagining us. We're seeing symptoms of that world that we're living in now: dislocation, disenfranchisement. And what we do about that, the depression and anxiety that's emerging, we medicate. But medication isn't helping us recognize where we are. In a 2022 Gallup report, job unhappiness is at a staggering all-time high. Only a third of our workforce are engaged. Over 50% of employees are actively looking for a new job. We're living in an epidemic of depression, anxiety, dislocation, and disenfranchisement that actually gave rise to the Great Resignation. 21st century business as usual. And business as usual today has primarily been created by what's being called the achiever brain. As long as business could continue making progress, we didn't particularly care that our brains weren't actually designed for the world we created. Our achiever brain thinks there's something wrong and it goes about fixing it. Except it's not about fixing the problem. It's about the world we're in. And it's going to take something different than what we're doing. We keep trying to figure out how to reimagine the world while the world is already reimagining us. So, do we focus on what's wrong? Or do we focus on how to steward our way through this? Recent brain research has revealed the degree to which this has progressively become challenging to us. In a world that's moving and changing exponentially, we live in a non sequitur world, and our brains are just not adjusted to that. Here's how this has brought us to how we've adapted to living in 21st century business as usual.
For most of our time on Earth, humans have sustained themselves by foraging. This created what's now called forager brain, characterized by generalism, adaptability, creativity, and innovation. We were embedded in nature. When we designed a new relationship to our world, the brain followed. Moving from foraging to agriculture, life became more sedentary. For the life of a farmer, there is more long-term anxiety instead of short-term fear, because the focus is on what's going to happen in the spring, which could be months away. We call that agricultural brain. Moving to the industrial age, the level of anxiety was amplified. Now it's about being tied to a machine and doing the same thing over and over again, relentlessly, developing what we now call industrial brain, even more disconnected from nature. As we moved to the information age, information became the commodity. Business progressed through information. We moved further away from physical things. When information became digitally condensed, enhancing virtualization, our brain focus moved even further from the biological, creating what we now call digital brain, with emerging generations who've grown up from birth in the digitally enhanced world. As soon as we disconnected from nature, us deciding how to till the land, we started socially, politically, religiously altering how we organized life, which changed our brain, being plastic, which changed the way our brain orients to our world. Since leaving Forager Brain, we've been living at odds with the environments we've created. This created the foundation and the driving force in our world that Dr. Lisa Miller, professor and researcher in clinical psychology at Columbia University, calls achiever brain. Her work documents achiever brain as weakening our human brain and its capabilities, leaving us vulnerable to depression, anxiety, doubt, and fear.
Okay, so what we're saying is, when we designed the world to our liking, leaving life out of it, our brain being neuroplastic followed suit in each of those ages. When we moved from forager to agricultural, following suit meant we created an agricultural brain. When we moved from agricultural to industrial, our brain followed suit. We created an industrial brain. Moving to the information age, we created a world around information becoming a commodity. Our brain followed suit. And all of that led us to this achiever brain that makes us vulnerable to depression, fear, doubt, and anxiety. So, Daniel, let's talk about it. How do we move from here? What's the antidote?
Well, Lisa Miller's research points to practices for what she calls the awakened brain as a remedy or potentially an antidote, as you say, for the achiever brain weakening. This awakened brain is oriented around meaning and connection to the sacred. She quotes, "Each of us has an awakened brain potentiality, a natural capacity to perceive a greater reality and consciously connect to life, and the neural circuitry that allows us to see the world more fully. Our brains are wired to perceive and receive that which uplifts, illuminates, and heals." Her research points out developing that potential for an awakened brain won't happen unless we consistently have a conscious practice that nurtures meaning and sacredness, quieting achiever brain.
Cultivating an awakened brain is a remedy then for the challenges arising from achiever brain. See, business as usual is not an option for any of us now. The socioeconomic patterns that hold day-to-day life in place now are the same patterns that are continuing to profit from exploitation and extraction of humanity in our ecosystem. Good people in the midst of achieving, mindset of achiever brain, will compartmentalize doing well, profits, and doing good, resulting in life separate from business. Since leaving forager brain, we've increasingly created a world that distances us from life, increasingly leaving life out of the equation. This is the gap.
Stay tuned for Alice's adventure in further micro collections.